Hello YouTube. The biggest Pokemon Pocket tournament probably ever just happened. It was the $10,000 tournament and Magnezone Oricorio won yet another tournament in this format. It keeps winning. Why does it keep winning? Is it really good? Let's talk about it. Let's go through some of these lesser seen decks and just yap about the meta as a whole. This is Monday. It's going to be a meta Monday. You get how that works. You get how that works. I'm joined with my cat. She's currently on top of me, but I think a lot of very interesting things happen, and I think that they're all things that I want to talk about with you guys. And I'm currently working on a video that I'm doing a little bit more editing on, so I figured giving you guys a little small thingy thing is nice. And the first thing you might notice if you're looking at this page, you might be squinting, is that not only was Giratina Darkrai the most used deck, but it performed bad. For the first time ever, Giratina Darkrai had a 48% win rate, under 50. And it only really, not even, if we look at standings, only one made top 8, another finished in top 16, and it was kind of a waste zone after that. Basically only 3 in the top 32. That's crazy. If you're a Darkrai Giratina hater, rejoice. All of the time spent hating has finally come to fruition. So let's talk about that. Let's talk about why that happened. And I think the biggest reason is if we look at that 0.62 Kamala, that means most Darkrai Giratina decks were running Kamala. You might ask, what does Kamala do? Why are people running this babushka of a Pokemon, right? Well, it's kind of simple, right? Kamala, as long as this Pokemon is in the active, it goes to sleep, but it deals 70 for 2 colorless. This is the reaction to dealing with Oricorio, especially Oricorio Greninja. Oricorio is a 70 HP Mon. Darkrai attach and then attack with rolling tackle is 90. You're even KOing giant caped Oricorios. So that's cool, right? Like, that's amazing, right? That's what you should be doing, right? But the context of the format and the meta changed a lot. Last week, right, we talked about how Tapu Lele Giratina won, right? And so I even made a tier list video where I put Tapu Lele Giratina as the best deck. This is a deck with a matchup that favors it when played into, Darkrai Tina. So immediately the need for Komala dropped, but Darkrai Tina players didn't get that message how I didn't get that message, because I was part of the problem. I entered this tournament, I went 4 wins in 3 losses, and I dropped, and because part of that was Kamala. Kamala was a very bad card that I wish I didn't include in my deck, and I should have given myself that message. I was kind of panicking over what deck to use. I was like, first moment I was going to use Meowscarada, and I'm sad I didn't. And then for another moment, I was going to use Charizard, and I'm sad I didn't. And I locked in probably the worst possible deck you could have brought to this tournament. And there's no one to blame but myself. So we are in this meta, right, where Darkrai Tina is no longer the best. However, the deck that is beating Darkrai Tina is not Oricorio Greninja, but Giratina Lele. So I think that Darkrai Tina players had to adjust. And it is very clear that the best, if I just click them, the only ones to get top 32 did not have Kamala. Kamala was cutting to consistency for a matchup that also kind of was falling off, right? Even in that tier list video, when I included Greninja Oricorio on the S tier, I felt like it could have easily been an A tier deck because I feel like its matchups are so polarizing, and it did have a really bad tournament. So like, I felt kind of right that we should have been dropping Kamala. I should have put my money where my mouth is, and Kamala is the reason why Giratina Darkrai for the first time ever has this win rate. But it's not just that, right? I think that the deck that really stole the tournament, we're obviously going to talk about Oricorio, is Meowscarada. Yeah, Meowscarada popped the freak off, right? Like, if we go back to that metagame tab, you'll see Meowscarada had a 54% win rate and destroyed the tournament. Over half of top 8 included this guy. Almost over half of top 16 included this guy. It was so crazy, and I want to talk about why, right? If we look at the matchups, it's very, very clear why. It has a really good matchup into Darkrai Giratina, but also, it supports a really, really nice win rate into Giratina Greninja, over a 60% win rate. That is insane. I can't stress how insane that is, right? A 70% win rate versus Giratina Darkrai. This was the best deck to bring to the tournament. If you brought Meowscarada and Decidueye to the tournament, you were cooking. You cooked. And it's so funny, right? I think it's crazy. I made the Meowscarada Decidueye as one of my first videos I made on this, and to see it be the best deck in the biggest tournament was crazy. You guys all deserve a pat on your back, but of course it didn't win, right? What ended up winning was Narumi using Oricorio Magnezone, a deck that I still rate lowly even after this tournament, and I'm going to talk about why it keeps winning in just a moment. This is Narumi's list. This is a very, very cool list. The things that differ it from the usual Oricorio list are the fact that they're using Lily. Lily is going to heal 60 on Magnezone. That's going to immediately shift the Meowscarada matchup. And Shaman providing consistent healing, which is going to be amazing into Darkrai Tina. Whereas before, the deck really only relied on Giant's Capes and maybe like a PCL. Drop the PCL, have that consistent Shaman healing, and all of a sudden this deck got really, really good. But why? What was its matchups like? What caused it? And because Meowscarada Decidueye was doing really good, like it did really good. There was a tournament even the day before where it popped off. So people knew that Meowscarada Decidueye was going to pop off. This deck happens to not only do good into Darktina, but it happens to also destroy Meowl. And it did. Look at this Narumi's top 16 run, basically going like almost 100% winning against Meowscarada Decidueye. And if it wasn't just them, right, another one got top 4, IJ77 also on very similar thought processes, obviously running Iono, running the PCL still, which so you can still run PCL, want to point that out there. But the big thing was the Shaman tech, right? Making that persistent healing, making Magnezone just hard to KO, right? Especially if you are playing, if you're playing Meowscarada. Meowscarada deals 60, right? If you do 60, 60, 60, that's 3 hits, and you're comparing that to 110, 110, 110. Obviously, the winner in the list using Lily, which is like insane because Lily heals through even a Decidueye attack. And notice again, this guy also basically farming Meowscarada Decidueye. So this was, while I consider Meowscarada Decidueye the deck to have brought to this tournament, this was the deck that was going to beat the best deck in the tournament. And the best deck in the tournament was that Meowl, and it did amazing. But why don't I recommend it, right? Why even after this, I don't recommend it? And I think it's important to note that for every, Narumi and IJ, right, there's a graveyard almost of players who just failed to reach it, and that's because of this deck's polarizing matchups, right? For every, let's sort by scores so we can get more games. Like for every Giratina Darkrai matchup, for every Meowscarada Decidueye matchup, right? There's an Arceus Crobat. You are 0-11 against them. There's a Garchomp Rampardos, right? There are these matchups that you just lose hard. And so I think that the reason why this deck does so well is obviously enough people bring it, someone's going to get that matchup luck, right? And this is why I can't really recommend this deck as highly as some of the other decks I've been recommending, and that's solely because of how polarizing it is to play this deck, right? I feel in good conscience I can't. Hey, Prismo, you want a pet? So yeah, it is hard for me to recommend it, but if you use it, you should, right? It's a good deck. If you get the matchups that you're expecting, you're going to win a lot. If you don't, you're going to lose a lot. This deck hasn't changed too much from the first week, but that is kind of why it keeps winning, and I kind of want to stress that it wins off based off the context of the format, right? The reason it was losing when like Snorlax Giratina was popular, or why Lele was like popular, is because these decks have built-in ways to destroy this. But when those decks are being the ones countered, this beat the counters, right? And that's really, really cool. Again, congrats to Narumi, congrats to IJ for bringing Magnezone Oricorio and doing as well as it did. And, you know, again, also congrats to Bixie, one of the best players. I think that people who are like, Pokemon Pocket is a luck-based game, look at Bixie's tournament history. Two-time Ursi Day winner, and they almost won this tournament, finishing in second. I think that Pocket is an extremely, like, yes, there's luck in every card game, but I think it's impressive to be able to do this at this level as consistently as Bixie. So big shout out. This is probably one of the best Meowscarada lists that you can be using. Obviously, I've been talking about Meowscarada, but not really talking about the list. What really changed is that triple healing, right? You'll see the Lily and the Ericas are really baller. The Leaf Capes are extreme. But the biggest thing is, and this was a problem before the tournament, because it was like separating them, the decks with Dartrix in it has a higher win rate than decks without Dartrix. So let's talk about why. Because the meta is so red card and Mars prevalent, it is very, very normal for Dartrix to like be drawn after a red card, and you can play it immediately. Being less reliant on rare candy is so important. And even when we look at the guy who got top 4, MVBDS, right? They also running that Dartrix. So that is the meta adaptation. If you want to update your Meowscarada decks, run triple healing, right? I think these guys actually ran the exact same list. Run triple healing, run the Dartrix, run a red card for disruption, and you will be on set for success. So now let's talk about some decks that were kind of, you know, a little freaky deaky. First is this guy. No, he's actually the person who eliminated me. It was a featured match. It was a really, really intense match, and it came down to the last top deck. So let me show you his list. His list is really cool. It's a deck that I put in YouTube content, which I still believe. However, that doesn't, I think that the important part is that like a deck being in YouTube content doesn't mean it's bad, right? It's just a deck that I can't in good conscience recommend and tell you you'll have a far climb. You might see this, and I think the reason I'm showcasing this is because you might see this, you might be like, I need something new to break up the monotony of rank. This can be the deck that breaks up the monotony of rank, right? Energized Blade. This guy is going to basically be a Charizard counter while having the fighting package to beat Oricorio. And of course, you know, because of Rare Candy, you're getting to this even faster. It's a 2 energy attacker. You can disrupt even Darkrai Giratina, which if you watch my set, the game 1, they pretty much disrupted it. Game 2, it was just a clean, like, wash. And in game 3, down to the wire, right? Lilies are amazing for healing, keeping yourself topped off so that you don't get donked by, like, a Giratina. Sabrina's really, really good, just to, like, grab the target that you need, especially when we're playing in an Oricorio meta. And of course, Mars, every deck has hand disruption. I think the lesson is every deck that I've shown has a Mars or red card. Add that into your deck. There's no debate anymore. I'm not trying to hear it. If you are complaining about Rare Candy decks and don't have a Mars or Rare Candy in your deck, you are part of the problem. And Iono, which I think is a weaker card, but it is a necessary card for these type of decks. So really cool to see. Another guy was Gengar Tapu Lele. Again, a deck that I won't really recommend, but I think that it is a strong deck that did perform well. Top 32 is impressive. A lot of Gengar ability is Hypnoblast, right? It's just 70, and it has a chance to put your active Pokemon to sleep. That's just strong, right? There's a lot of basics that get hit by this. There's a lot of Pokemon like Oricorio that are going to get tapped. But the real strength is, of course, it being like a Lele or a Oricorio deck with a chance to just cheese off wins and be very disruptive, right? This deck dealing with Cyrus, allowing you to pretty much pull in whatever, especially after energy arrowing a few times. Tapu Lele is just one of the strongest cards to have come out this meta, and it's really cool to see this late, you know, we're in like the middle of the month, this Lele kind of popping off in the way that it's done, Oricorio, really freaking good. Gengar, again, Hypnoblast can be extremely obnoxious to deal with. You just have a 50% chance of doing nothing, right? Stupid card, honestly. But that's kind of where it's kind of funny though. Like the Gengar that ended up doing good wasn't the Gengar EX, right? Or just support a Gengar. It was the one that put you to sleep. This was kind of surprising, but really cool to see. I guess if there was a more traditional Gengar list, this other Gengar list did good. I think they finished in the top 128, so they lost kind of immediately after making cut, but they still made cut, right? They went 8-2. This one running, again, the same concept, but different ratios, whereas there was a Haunter now, and there's also double Lily, so very much more focused on just Gengar, right? This Gengar's ability to be obnoxious, has the Rocky, has the Barbs. If we look at these decks matchups, so I can get a little bit more of a sense of why they were doing good. Again, no surprise that it did really good to Meowl, but it had a winning streak into Lele stuff, right? I think that's really, really cool. I think the one loss that they had was just, it happens, right? But like, that's really, really cool. This the deck to beat was Tapu Lele. And would you look at that? This deck does really good into chat Tapu Lele. This also showing its strength into those decks. Unfortunately losing to a Skarmory Solgaleo, which I guess I'll show you guys. Because like, why not? This is the deck they used. It was Sabrina Cyrus. So nothing really changed about this deck. Really what changed is the meta changed, right? The meta has allowed a deck like this to be able to do well, and I think that's really cool, where we've talked about how Solgaleo's dropped off, and now we're seeing a Solgaleo pull its right matchup, so it's pretty slightly favored matchup into Tapu Lele as well. So really, really cool to see them go as far as they did. Their run ending to a Meowl. This is a very, very interesting run, right? They had a lot of Tapu Lele players. They had a lot of Fire players, and they won. I don't know how they did that, but congrats to them. This is a hard-fought top 32. And, of course, I think I have 2 more decks for you guys. I have 1 more deck. I lied. And it is this, or it's another deck that, again, I do not recommend, but if you want to use it, be my guest. And it is this Togekiss Lele Oricorio. Are you guys noticing a pattern in these psychic decks that are 140 HP guys? Right? It's just pick your favorite 140 HP guy. If it's Gengar or Togekiss. What's really broken is the Tapu Lele Oricorio. They really, really synergize with each other. And the difference with this is matchups. It's really, really good into, again, Meowl. It's really good into Meowl, right? Going on a 4-win streak against them. Before finally losing also to Magikarp Fish. Magikarp Fish had a freaky bracket run, but I think that this is another deck I would not recommend. But if you're looking to break up the monotony of ranked, why not, right? Why not? And I think that's all I have for you. I kind of talked about why Oricorio won. I showed you guys some different decks. I showed you guys that Darkrai, Giratina are under the decline. My biggest advice is drop Komala. I'm being so dead ass. That card is bad. There's not enough Oricorio. Even after Oricorio won, I've been checking high ladder. Nobody cares about Oricorio Magnezone WON. They're not net decking that because it doesn't affect the overall meta. It just happened to do really good for this specific tournament's meta. I don't expect Magnezone Oricorio to do good next week, but it might do good the week after, right? And that's just how this deck works. That's how the meta game works. If something wins, it becomes the next thing to counter. You're gonna see a lot more fighting decks. It's really freaky deaky. But that's what I love about this meta. It's so open. It's so diverse. If you are a refugee, you survived ranked season 1, and you've made it to this part, say I survived, and Oricorio is my new meta lord. Amen. Hallelujah. I don't know what I'm trying to say. Let me end this video. New kind of edited video coming up either tomorrow or Wednesday, yada yada. I might be streaming after this if this cat leaves my desk. This Eugen's alarm is up. This is my time to end the video. Bye bye.